Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to tonight's second half. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links and a quick reminder. Tonight's Saturday Nightmares, live from upstate New York. That is our live stream, 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope to see you all there. We share experiences and theories, and overall just have a really great time. It is unlike any live stream in this field on YouTube. Now, on to the links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into tonight's second half, shall we? We're going to start today's upload with a very chilling video clip. Some hikers were out hiking and stumbled across a cave. As they got closer to this cave, they realized that it was a Masonic cave. The emblem is carved into the rock above the entrance. There is a gate with the Masonic crest there. Also, walking in, there is kind of a very strange ritual room. And then it gets creepier and creepier as they go down into the cave. We talk about DUMBs here. We talk about cryptids here. DUMBs, deep underground military bases, for those of you who don't know. But we talk about all paranormal, not just Dogman. This is the one video clip that I'm going to share today that is not a cryptid, or possibly a cryptid, but it is chilling just the same. Check it out. All right, folks, like I said, very chilling. Not cryptid related, but it is kind of the unknown. I myself have never heard of a cave like this. I do come from a family of Freemasons and actually showed this video to my uncle, who has been a Freemason a lot longer than any other family member I have or myself. And he asked me, he's not familiar with, well, he knows what TikTok is and stuff like that, but he's not, tech savvy, 60 something years old. Said, "Where'd you get this? This is insane." And as he watched, I could see his face kind of contort. It was very chilling to see his expression. This next video clip is a group of hikers or a group of campers, and they have an unexpected guest at their tent. Check it out.
What the fuck is that?
No, what's...
Run!
Guys, wait! Oh.
What the fuck is that?
No, what's...
Run!
Guys, wait! Oh.
So, like I say all the time, I have no affiliation with these. I'm just sharing them with you. This one's chilling. It definitely does not. It has human-like features, but if you look at the way it is on all fours, it definitely kind of throws you for a loop. It's very creepy, actually. My daughter showed me this and I was like, oh my. And I was like, I gotta share it with you guys. So, but once again, I'm not sure. I wasn't there. I didn't take the video. I'm leaving it up to you. And with that being said, let's jump into tonight's encounter. Also, at the end of this, I'm going to throw in a couple of other video clips that have not aired on this channel. And you guys be the judge. Jeff, I'd like to thank you for taking the time and sharing my encounter. My name is Zach, and you can use it. That's just fine with me. I'm 29 years old now, but this happened when I was 9, maybe 10. Before I get into it, I'd like to give you a small layout of the property and some details on the house. My mom's parents used to have a mid-sized 2-story home with about 30 to 40 acres of land in Summerdale, Alabama. They had farm animals, chickens, roosters, peacock, horse, you name it. The backyard had pecan trees with an old barn used for keeping the horses. It was an old barn with a tin roof on it, and why I give this info on the barn will lead up to what I'm about to share. One weekend, I decided I wanted to stay the night with my grandparents, as I usually do once or twice a month. My mom and dad were no longer together, so I had to share my time between the two. So when I did stay with my mom, I would always want to see my grandparents. One weekend, I stayed the night. I had just finished with a late night snack, and I was going into the kitchen to put my dirty dishes away and get ready for bed. Now in the kitchen, there's a window above the sink with a light on above the window. At first, I saw movement in the corner of my eye, so I looked out the window. I could see in one of the trees the peacocks were acting up, flying out of the tree they usually slept in. So I go outside thinking maybe they were spooked by something, maybe an owl, or they saw a coyote, so I grab my BB gun and a flashlight and go outside. My grandparents were already upstairs getting ready for bed, and my grandfather was on his breathing machine. So, me being the only other male, I told him I was going outside to see why the peacocks were acting up. He told me to hurry back inside, it's late and bedtime, so I told him no problem. I go outside and I'd use the back door, which was a sliding glass door. I walk out, usually the dog, whose name is Jake, he's a Great Dane, and my best friend. He would be by that door, and he wasn't. He would come running, but this time he didn't. I was concerned there was a light near the barn, so the backyard was lit up pretty decently. I called for Jake and nothing. After I called his name, I heard movement in the tree next to the barn. That was also close to the tree, so I turned my flashlight on. I began to slowly walk into the backyard. Now, usually, Jake would have come running to me. I call out, and still nothing. I stopped talking, and I began to worry, thinking something had happened to him. Tears began to roll down my face, and after a few minutes I realized the peacocks are all on the ground, where they'd usually be sleeping in the tree. Then I hear a rooster flopping around like a madman in the same tree they'd all be sleeping in. Then nothing. It was dead at that point. All the animals are scattering, running. This is definitely not right, I'm telling myself. I've never seen or heard anything like this. I'm standing there confused, fear is filling my body, and I don't know why, but I yelled for the dog again. This time I see him about 50 yards come running from the other side of the barn. I walk up to him, but he runs past me to my grandmother's old greenhouse she uses for her flowers. Then I hear this deep growl. I'm stuck with fear, as I cannot move. I can hardly breathe at this point. I try to turn around, but it was like I was frozen in a block of ice. Flashlight, BB gun still in my hands. I cannot lift them. I couldn't understand what was going on. Finally, I'm able to turn. And I do, but when I turn around, I don't see anything. I turn my flashlight back on and look, and still nothing. Man, I'm tearing up as I'm typing this. So I keep looking, and then I hear a noise in the tree. I shine my light to see what was up there, and that's when I saw it. About 20 to 30 feet in the tree at first, all I saw was this white-gray hump. Then it began to move. And now I see what now I could tell was the back and shoulders. Then its ears. I'm freaking out. This thing is huge to be anything like a coyote. As it finishes, it turns and I see its face. If you've ever seen a werewolf or Fever Swamp on Goosebumps, this thing's face looked just like the werewolf's face in that. As I shine the light on it, it looks at me with these yellowish eyes. My body is stiff as a board, and I felt so empty on the inside. This thing lifted its left arm, and in its left hand it had one of the roosters already dead. It does this and continues to look at me. I'm shaking, and as I'm looking at it, my light goes out. That's when I snap out of it and begin to beat the light to come back on. As I do, I hear a growl once again, and I look up. I barely can see it. It begins to shift its body, completely facing me. I hit the light one more time against my thigh, and it came back on. I shine it back up on this thing, and it's looking at me with this grin on its face. Now, when I say grin, I mean the Grinch who stole Christmas grin. That's when I aim my BB gun. What made me do this, I don't know, but as soon as I do, this thing jumps from the tree onto the roof of the barn. It's a tin roof. When it landed, it sounded like someone dropped a load of bricks at once. Just a big, awful boom. Then it hits the ground, and at this point, there's nothing. I'm shining my light all around. I'm still frozen in fear. As I want to walk closer to look, but I can't. Then I hear this heavy breathing that turns into a growl. This growl, I felt like it was rattling my insides to pieces. I'm shining my light all around the barn, through the door, to the rooftops. I cannot see it, but that's when I shine it to the side of the barn that's straight in front of me, and that's when I see this thing's left hand and its left side of its face just looking back at me. Then it ducks back behind the barn. I begin to back up, knowing that this is not right. It cannot be real. As I begin to back away, it pops its head and hand out again. This time, It puts its hand on the barn, and then it completely steps from behind it, standing on two legs with this evil grin. I was so scared I began to cry aloud. No control. I had no control over my body. I couldn't move. I tried screaming, but my mouth just wouldn't open. That's when I see it lift its right arm and waves at me. I know nobody's going to believe this, but I swear on my family's lives it waved. As I'm seeing this wave, it just lays the dead rooster on the ground and then runs, still on two legs. After it ran off, I go inside and run to my room. My grandparents asked me what was wrong, and I told them I had seen a monster. They wouldn't have believed me if I told them really what I had seen. To this day, I've hardly told anyone, and the ones that I have told just blow me off, like a little kid being afraid of the dark. I hope this was easy to make out. I understand I'm not the best writer, and this is my first real time really telling it. It's been 20 years since this encounter, so thank you, Jeff. Hey, Jeff, it's Zach, and this is my second encounter. In Fruitdale, Alabama, my dad leases hunting property for hunting season, and on the hunting season of 2020, I decided to go in on the property with him. So I went and helped him get it ready for deer season. As a kid before my childhood encounter, I would go with him every season, help with the tractor, chop down limbs, put corn out, something my dad and I used to do to just enjoy wildlife that so many of us don't take time to enjoy and truly realize just how beautiful life really is. Well, on that day I went alone, and I wanted to check the property out since it was almost time to get prepped. I hop out of the truck and I walk probably a half a mile into the property. At this point, I'm kind of deep in the woods. The open area we used for hunting was probably 500 yards back or so, but I've always liked to walk further just to see how it is around where I hunt. Plus, the walks help with my anxiety. I was coming up the hill that was in the open and is made of red dirt. I ran up the hill and sat down on the red dirt hill. I began to just enjoy the fresh air, the sounds of birds. The whole walk it was active, and I never had any weird feelings or smelled anything. The only thing I did notice were claw marks on some of the trees. They were fairly wide, and I could see 4 fingers like downward strokes, and a slight fifth, where I would guess the thumb would be. And the other trees it seemed more slant and not straight. So, like I was saying, my trip into the woods was smooth sailing. Just a couple of trees with those claw marks. And also, let me say this, I did have my .416 Ruger Hawkeye African rifle. I'd just bought it, planned on trying to break it in. After my childhood encounter, it made me want to always be prepped, but never go hunting for one. So, I just want to clear the air. I was not out there trying to hunt one of these things. But I do keep a big rifle with me, just to be safe. I'd rather be over-prepared than under-prepared. So I'm sitting on the hill with my rifle, and as I'm sitting, it's maybe 20 minutes of relaxing. It goes dead quiet. I notice this, but don't freak out. I begin to just slowly look around. And behind me, my rifle is loaded with the safety on. I don't lift the rifle, but I keep it by my side, as I'm not trying to send the wrong message if this happens to be a dogman or werewolf. So I stand up and have my rifle by my side. I look to my left and off about 50 yards. I see a black figure crouched down beside the trees, and how I could tell that the area was open and had a little bit of trees and brush around, so the black spot was totally out of place. And as I look at this thing, it lets out a deep, deep gurgle-like sound. And this is when the story turns into something I know nobody is going to believe, but I swear on my own soul that this is what happened. Like I was saying, as I looked at it, it made that sound. It began to slowly walk on all fours my way. I remained still because I didn't really know what to do. And I say out loud, if you think I'm here to harm you, I'm not. I'm just here checking out my hunting property. That's when it stops and crouches back down on its back legs. When I say legs, these were no dog legs. They looked more human-like, and I began to notice its yellow eyes. I first think werewolf. Then I saw no tail, but as this thing stops and crouches down, it tilts its head, and with a deep voice and serious look in its eyes, it says, "Why aren't you running?" Jeff, when I say my whole body went limp, it felt like even my soul left my body. That's how I felt. With a stutter, I replied, "Because I know about you and your kind, and I'm not here to harm you. I believe we can be at peace." It just looks at me and begins to sniff the air and tilts its head, and then straightens back and says to me, it says, "You have no fear of me." I think to myself and realize it can sense my emotions. I tell him if you wanted me dead, you would have killed me, and like I said before, if you don't try to harm me, I won't attempt to harm you, because I believe you want what we want, and that is to live and live without doing harm. I see one of your kind as a child, and for years I felt like it wanted to lure me with showing friendly intentions, but the older I got, I began to realize it could have killed me, just like you can right now. Jeff, I know this is a lot to hear, and probably find truth to, but I am dead serious. All of this happened. I don't troll, and I don't take this stuff as a joke. But after I said all of that, it stands up, and this thing is easily 8 feet tall. It stands and says, "Protect us," and then trotted back into the woods. My second encounter in 20 years, and each one had been harmless. I don't know if it's certain people or what, but I still cannot wrap my head around this last encounter. Zach's third email. Hey Jeff, I'd like to give you an update on everything that's been going on. Just so everyone knows, there's a lot to cover, and I'm typing this on my phone, so I apologize if anything gets left out. I'm shaking as I type this. So, just recently I had a run-in with that werewolf that I nicknamed Buddy, and found out that he could speak. Shortly after speaking to you, Jeff, on your show, it was about a week or two later that I started seeing less of Buddy, and then one day nothing. I was a little nervous because I didn't know what happened. I was worried that he had turned against me, and now either planning on hunting me or who knows what. A few days go by and still nothing. Woods sound alive, and, well, I don't see any dead animals, and I don't smell anything. I don't see prints. It was like Buddy was never around. I leave and come back the next day, the same thing. Everything is normal. I make my way around my truck to get supplies out and begin making my way to the hunting spots, to begin setting up stands to hunt out of. My dad and I build them, and once we build them, we bring them out and set them up on this day. I was alone, and I drove my truck to the spot and backed the truck up to the post holes. That way I could drop them right in with the truck helping me hold the stand up. After about 20 minutes of hell getting it out and set up in the holes, I sit on the tailgate of my truck to catch a breath. Sitting there, sweating and chugging water like there's no tomorrow, I notice how quiet it is, and I look around. I don't see or hear anything. Based off my previous experience, I was thinking, okay, maybe he's back. I look around with caution. I didn't have my .416 with me this time. All I had was my AR-15. Because of how crazy things have gotten in the world, I only had it for safety reasons. But, as I was saying, I was looking around and couldn't see anything. That's when I gradually began to smell a strong odor of dead animal, wet dog. Now I know what people mean by what that odor smells like because it's bad. But as I said, I smelt that odor and kept looking around. I couldn't see anything or hear anything, but then it dawned on me that people said Dogman have a smell. And right when that thought is in my head, I hear a faint growl noise coming from my rear. And at that point, all that's behind me is the tree stand I had just put up, and then woods. I turn around and duck down to squat so I can look past the stand and see if there's anything behind it in the woods. And that's when I see a big lab gold coat colored German Shepherd head halfway sticking out from behind a tree. Soon as I saw it, it ducked back behind the tree. I'm thinking to myself, that's not Buddy. It doesn't look like him. WTF is that? It looked nothing like Buddy, or the one I saw when I was a child. So I stay in a crouch position, stayed focused on that one spot. Then I hear a sound from my left. Now to my left is nothing but a small open field. Because of my angle and direction I'm already facing, there's probably only 200 yards of open field, and on my right is a trail leading out of the open area, and nothing but woods because how I set up. I was at an angle that was facing more right than left, so I could get a clear all-around view of the open field. So I wanted to kind of clear that up and help understand the layout, but as I heard that noise and looked to my left, I saw the black spot crouch down on all fours, trying to stay low to the ground. And as soon as I saw it, it began to stop moving. And then the one in the woods begins to growl, at this time even louder. I begin thinking very fast in my head that I need to stay calm and remember how to use my instincts. Half my family comes from military background and taught me a lot. And one is to always keep your head, a clear mind, and swallow my fear. But as this one growled, I turned my eyes to it and I quickly adjusted back on the other one. And that's when I catch it making again. And at this point, I know what's going on. But my gun is in my truck in the back seat. But I remember that my windows are open and that if I hop out this bed, they're going to pounce. So I'm staying calm, still crouched down, and the truck is lifted, so I'm fairly decently off the ground. So it would take me 1 or 2 extra seconds if I hopped down, and I knew that I couldn't waste a second if I'm going to make a move at this moment. I knew it was going to take the training I've been given and have taught myself. I'm in the bed of the truck trying to plan this out. The one from behind the tree steps out and looks at me with a grin. It seems we are 25 yards apart. He's not far, and yes, it's definitely a male, if you know what I mean. And as it steps out, it goes from grin to making growling noises again. Then it darts to my right through a small patch of trees, crosses the trail into the tree line. Now they are on my left and right at this point, so I look back at the other one, and it's now moved more in the middle of the field and more in front of the truck at this point. Still staying low to the ground, I'm confused, not knowing what's going on. I begin to hear movement to my left, same one that just went into the woods. As I look to my left, the one in front of me stands up and makes this loud growl howling noise and runs in my direction. As soon as it begins to run straight at me, I jump or slide across the top of the truck and into the passenger seat. Like I said, the windows were open. The keys are still in the ignition. I crank it enough to power the windows and roll them up. By the time I had the window half up, the one running was at my hood of the truck. This thing cleared 100 yards easily within seconds, enough to where I didn't even get my windows completely up. It just stops and puts its hand/paw on the hood of my truck. This is early afternoon, so I'm getting a clear as day look at these things. It wasn't bulky, it was lean, and this one had a dark brown color to it. The other one has a golden brownish color to it, like a lab with golden tannish color. The fur wasn't that thick, and face like a mixture of a German Shepherd / wolf, if that makes sense. The hands were more like paws and hands mixed together. As it stood there, it started sniffing the air and looking around. Then it turns its head to its right, which is my left, and there comes the other one walking on all fours. I look down onto the floorboard and grab my AR, look back up. And as soon as I look up, it's looking at me. And the look in its eyes are like, I don't know what you just did, but I'm not about to find out. That's when I pull the charging handle, and as soon as I do that, it growls and hauls ass to the passenger side window. It shoves its face into the window, and as soon as that one did that, the other one comes from behind and smacks the quarter window and sends cracks all through it. And one in the front of me raises its arms to swing at my window. That's when I let 2 shots off into this thing. I hit it because it let out this god-awful scream yelp sound. The other one must have run, because once I turned back around, it was gone. Jeff, I don't know, but all this started as soon as Buddy left, and I don't know where my friend is, but I want him back. I just hope Buddy wasn't trying to ask me for help when he said protect us. Remember me telling you about that? What if Buddy was asking me for help, werewolf or not? I've always believed they need our help too. Since then, I haven't been back to the property, but recently I was at a gas station not too far from the property. And while I was getting a drink, I noticed an older native gentleman. He would always stare at me, not creepy looking really, but would just have this smile on his face. He finishes getting his stuff and goes to the checkout, and I finish what I'm getting and make my way to the line to check out. The whole time I'm feeling like I know him, like I've seen him before. He goes to walk out and turns his head. Then does this tilt-like thing you do when you're saying hello with your head, but with a grin or smile. I pay for my stuff and make my way to my truck. Now, just to make it clear, this has been 3 weeks after that Dogman nightmare and 4 weeks since I've seen Buddy. But as I was going back to the truck, I saw the older gentleman getting into his truck. And when I saw him getting in, I noticed a totem wolf symbol around his neck. I don't know what happened, but I got a big flood of curiosity and had to ask him if he knew anything or had seen anything. As I walk up to him, I notice that he has a wolf in his truck with him, beautiful timber wolf. He sees me walking up and I wave and say hello. He says, "Hello, young man," and I introduce myself to him. He looks at me and goes with a giggle, says, "You can call me Chief." And I asked, "Chief, you believe in what some call werewolves or some call Dogman?" He looks at me and says, "You don't, you boy?" And I said, "Yes, that I believe. Not all are evil or mean harm." He smiles and says, "You have been welcomed, haven't you?" I ask what he means, and he says, "The spirit of the wolf is a pure thing. Those who are pure at heart find peace with the guardians of the land. Some are guardians, while some walk as damned upon our lands." My body goes numbed. I'm floored. I think I've found all my answers I've been looking for. I tell him not long ago that I came across a werewolf and it spoke to me. It said, "Protect us," but lately I have not seen him since. I told him everything that went on between me and Buddy, and he tells me, "You are pure at heart and have the spirit of the wolf." He's rubbing his wolf totem on his necklace. "You are one with." Jeff, there's a lot more I have to share with you. This is not all. There's way more. After that, I went to the native's home, and he had shared so much with me, and I think I found the truth to a lot of questions when it comes to the Dogman / werewolf. I'm going to share more with you and everyone who wants answers as well. I'm speaking more with him sometime soon, but till then, I do have a lot to share with you. Zach's next email a couple of months after the last one. Jeff, 2 weeks ago, I decided to hit up a friend who I hadn't seen in a while. I give him a call and ask how he's doing. I say, do you have any time to hang out? He says, sure, head over. I pull up, get out, we shake hands, walk into his house, sit down, and begin to chit-chat with one another. Oh yeah, this isn't far from my hunting property. He asks if I want a cold one. I say, you know I really don't drink. He says, yeah, you still don't care for the old cold ones, do you? Note the partying days drained me. He laughs and says, you were known to party back in the day. So we BS around. We walk out into his backyard. He has a big backyard, at least 200 yards, just going straight back and probably over 50 yards wide. Off to the right, when walking out his back door about 40 yards, is his workshop. And then to the left of it, further down, is his barn. It's about mid-size, nothing big, just enough room for a few horses, which he only has one, and further down at the end of his yard is where he has it fenced off, where he keeps his horse when he lets him out. The reason why I give all of this info on his yard is to help you imagine the layout of this property when I share this next experience I'm going to share. So we're on his back porch, and his Great Dane named Rebel, beautiful, huge. We're hanging out on the porch, and he asks me if I mind if he lets Rebel out because he was at the back screen door, wanting to be let out. I tell him sure. So he lets Rebel out, and he does his normal thing, runs into the yard, does his business. We're still standing there talking, and that's when his dog is frozen in place, looking down towards the end of the yard where his horse is, and begins to bark. And my friend's name I'm not going to give out for privacy reasons, but we'll just call him Joe. I said, Joe, what do you have around here that's got Rebel all hyped? Usually Rebel's chilled and not hyped. He tells me he had to run off a coyote the other day, or a few of them, and I go, coyotes? Since when? He says the other day he saw a couple of black figures kind of halfway out of the tree line sniffing the ground. I had to get a gun and shoot off a warning shot. I go, did you get a good look at them? He says, not really. They were so dark that it was hard for me to get a clear view. Plus, I was up here near the house. I asked him, was your horse out? He said, no, I had to put him up. He said it was late in the evening. He said when he shot that shot off into the air, that they didn't even really flinch. Right when he says this, it dawns on me that this might just be a Dogman, because a coyote isn't going to hang out after a 308 goes off. So I tell him, you need to be careful. You're going to try to run something off that doesn't scare easy. It's going to be your ass, and trust me, I don't want that, and some things you don't want to be your problem. He laughs and looks at me and says that I've hunted for many years, and you have been taught by some of the best in Bama, and you taught me. You know as well as me that I'm a good shot. Remember last time when we went shooting, we hit 2 leaders from 400 yards, and then you had to show me up by hitting one from 6. So come on, don't be so harsh, and don't assume it's those Dogman things. I tell him it takes more than just accuracy to deal with these things. So to move forward and skip the boring, I head home. Later that night he calls me, freaking out. I can't understand a word he's saying. I say, dude, chill out. What's your issue? Finally he screams, them damn things you talk about. They're here, they're real, they're down by the barn. That's when I tell him to turn every light on the house on the outside, keep Rebel inside, and keep an eye on the horse. I'm on my way. After some time pass, I pull up, and when I pull into his driveway, which is about 75 yards long, with small fields on each side, then beyond them tree lines, so I'm making my way down the driveway. As I'm coming up to his house, my headlights catch one on the right side looking from behind the house. I said to myself, here we go. I pull up as close as I can to his front door so I don't have to run too far. Anyway, I get out and I head to his front door. His porch is right there. I quickly unload all 3 of my rifles. I brought with me my 7mm Weatherby, a 340 Weatherby, and my 416 Ruger. I have a 375, but the 340 has more velocity. Yes, bullet grain is smaller, but if anyone knows Weatherbys, especially the Mark V's, you can't go wrong, especially with velocity. So I unload the truck, guns laid on the kitchen table. My friend is on his couch, white as a sheet of paper, shaking out of control. As soon as I go to try and say something, I hear a loud boom on the back side of the house. My friend then flips out and yells, "Get away from me." I've never seen that side of him like this. I grab his shirt and say, "Joe, you gotta get a grip. I know you're scared and I understand, but if we're going to get out of this, you're going to need to get a grip. You need a clear head. Listen to me. We will make it out of this, and hopefully this doesn't turn ugly. But your fear is going to attract them. They sense you're flipping your crap, so they're going to try and scare you." He looks at me and said, "Where is Rebel?" I look around calling out for Rebel, and he's nowhere to be found. Joe runs back to the sliding door and goes to open it. I tell him, "Joe, stop." He's now gone from being scared to pissed. He throws open the blinds that are made to cover the sliding door and then throws the door back, porch light on. So luckily nothing was there when he opened the door. He's yelling for Rebel, so I go out with him and begin looking around. I tell him, "Joe, you're gonna have to shut it. You can't be loud." Then I ask him, "Where, if your work light, we need to plug it up on this porch and shine it out into the yard." This one is one of those Husky LED lights, 7,000 lumens. He goes and gets it. I'm still on the porch looking around, and at this point I have my 7mm with me. And trust me, it will work on these things, especially with these loads. The 7mm has claimed 1, but that's an encounter for another day. But as I'm on the porch looking around, I look to my left, and I see Rebel. Then Joe runs out with the light. I tell him, "Quick, hook it up." I see Rebel, and this light covers 360 degrees and 180-degree tilt. We shine it out into the yard, and off to the left is Rebel, and Rebel has his tail tucked between his legs and is close to the ground, trying to slowly back up. In front of him, coming out of the tree line, is this brown-black coated Dogman on all fours, staying low, making its way towards Rebel. That's when Joe screams, "Rebel, come here, leave him alone." And right when Joe does this, it perks up, and with its left arm grabs Rebel, and then its right, and begins to attack him, holding his head to the ground. All I can hear is Rebel let out this loud squeal, then nothing. All this happened so fast that by the time I got my gun shouldered, it was dead. Then it drags the dog off, and Joe's sobbing at this point, emotionally wrecked and pissed. As Joe is on his knees, I hear movement and growls coming from the woods, and I tell him to get up. We're not alone. Soon as I say that, off to our right comes another one. This one is all black and hard as hell to see at night. As it comes out, it goes from being on all fours to standing on 2 legs, while still hunched over a bit. I said, "Joe, we gotta go now." He stands up. I tell him, "Don't run, slowly backstep." And as we do this, it shows its teeth and widens its arms out like it's going to give a big hug, and then begins to run our way. We haul to the house. As we get onto the porch, we turn around. This thing is running on our right. It runs and hops onto the roof of the house. We make our way into the house, and Joe makes sure that every window is closed. His house is a 2-story home. When I say this thing ran up onto the roof, I mean it did it like it was its daily routine for it. It grabbed a window trim and made its way up to the roof. As we're inside, we hear it on the roof. One thump after another. This thing lets out a howl like I had never heard. A howl mixed with like a woman screaming. I don't know how else to describe it. Then more howls followed with it. We ran to the window that's in the kitchen that's facing toward the driveway, then the woods on the other side. What we see is 3 more sets of reddish eyes, like a glare, kind of a red that's faint. Then they split up, going in different directions. One's behind the house, and 2 in front. As this happens, I tell Joe, grab one of the guns. They're trying to flank us. We are probably in for a long night. He's freaking out, saying, don't we need to call the police? I look at him and say, no. Just listen to me and we'll get through this. Just remember, aim for the head and neck area. Don't shoot unless you have to. Make every shot count. As we were sitting in the living room, we began to hear banging on all sides of the house, and the one on the roof runs its way back to the side of the house. According to the sounds from the roof, I catch a dark shadow move past the window in the living room. Then the doorknob begins to move. And guess what? Door was left unlocked. Joe goes to the door. The door begins to open, and as it opens, I run and dive into the door and slam it shut, because the door got open a quarter of the way. And I said the whole right side of that thing. I quickly lock it. As I'm locking it, I hear one deep breath and a gurgle noise as I'm listening to this thing drag its nails on its door. I swear I hear this thing trying to speak, because I could hear die behind all of that deep breathing and gurgling noise it was making. That's when I get this overwhelming, deep gut feeling of fear I have never felt before. That's when a big slam against the door happened. It hit the door so hard, it made a spiderweb crack in certain areas of the door. Then another smack comes from the windows in the kitchen. And when Joe runs to the window and opens the blind, the brown one is there, face in the window. And out of fear, Joe aims the gun, and I yell, Joe, don't. But before I knew it, he fires the gun, and all I hear is this yell, howl, like no kind of sound I had ever heard. Joe, what's wrong with you? Now, thanks to Joe, there's a hole in the window, and I'm waiting for them to come in. We're as good as dead, I think. I grab my flashlight and shine it out the window. I hear the one that Joe hit gasping for air. I make my way to the window and I look out. 15 to 20 yards is the Dogman slowly making its way back into the woods, with the others right there with it. The others look back up with pure evil at this point. I knew we were going to die. My ears are ringing badly. I can't focus. And as they are looking at him, one grabs the dying one, and the other 2 begin to make their way towards us. I take aim at one with my 7mm and shoot it dead in its left eye, and it drops. The other one runs off to the back of the house, down the yard, and off into the woods. That makes Dogman number 2 with my 7mm. Don't think for a second I'm proud of this, because I'm not. If anyone thinks I'm going to take a picture of all of this, you are mistaken. So agents, if you are hearing this, there is no recordings or pictures taken, but I will say this. If your rats don't get taken care of, then I sure won't mind cleaning up your mess. The ones that I killed I set on fire. Jeff, I want to thank you for sharing my experiences. I will contact you very soon and share all of these experiences on your channel as an interview. Many blessings, brother. I will be in touch soon. God bless. have it, folks. I do hope you all enjoyed tonight's second half. I hope to see you all at the live stream, 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'd like to thank you for supporting the channel. It is your support, after all, that helps this channel to continue to grow and go, and honestly, what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect we deserve. Please, everyone, stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and our friends. These creatures are real. They are out there. These events have happened. Share this information with the people that you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.